on Palm Sunday, a very significant Christian holiday, people were heading to church, and the Ukrainian city of Sumy was attacked with ballistic missiles. Cluster munitions were located in these missiles, and when they hit the city, they killed a significant amount of people. They killed 32 people, including 2 children, injured 99 others that included 11 children, and you can see the wreckage here. A second strike made impact as people came to save those hurt in the first strike. This is commonly referred to as a double tap. So this did a lot of damage, but this is also coming right after the aftermath of the Kievan re-strike, which killed a significant amount of children and civilians as well. And within the last 24 hours since this strike occurred, I have heard about other strikes in Sumy after these civilians have been killed. So the Russians have not stopped the continuation of these strikes. And these strikes just keep happening. The Russians said in private, according to the Trump administration, that they would agree to a civilian ceasefire. That's what the Trump administration said publicly. They said they agreed to an energy ceasefire. They said they agreed to a Black Sea ceasefire. But here we see civilians continuing to get caught up by long-range ballistic missiles, which would have the coordinates enter in beforehand. I see the S-300s, S-400s. These are air defense missiles that they just lob at cities. They're not guided very well. They're not given coordinates. And when I go to these buildings that have been bombed out, and see the wreckage where there used to be a family there and now there's just corpses, these are bombs just kind of not like randomly thrown at the city, but thrown under the idea that there's a decent chance that they're going to miss. Ballistic missiles, you have to enter in the coordinates. There's a specific coordinate you're aiming for. And if it wasn't intercepted and made impact, then what they intended to hit is what they intended to hit unless something went wrong. And that means Russia's been making a lot of mistakes. And you'd have to really give Russia a lot of the benefit of the doubt, considering how many times this has happened, for you to think it was a mistake. But that seems to be what President Trump thinks it was. Let's listen to his quote. "I think it was terrible, the strike on Sumy. And I was told they made a mistake. I think it's a horrible thing, though." Let's listen.
Yes. Do you have a reaction to Russia's Palm Sunday attack on Ukraine?
I think it was terrible, and I was told they made a mistake, but I think it's a horrible thing. I think the whole war is a horrible thing. I think the war is, for that war to have started, is an abuse of power. This country would have never allowed that war to have started if I were president. That war is a shame. Millions of people are dead that should be alive. Cities are being destroyed all over Ukraine. The whole culture is gone. Or certainly very severely hurt. You know, the chapels, the churches, the spirals, all of the things that they had in Ukraine were among the most beautiful anywhere in the world. Most have been knocked down and blown up into a million pieces. But most importantly, you have millions of people dead that shouldn't be dead.
So he says it was a mistake. He says that the Russians made a mistake. Now, the German leader, Merz, he said that it was deliberate, probably due to the fact that you have to enter in the coordinates when you fire these types of ballistic missiles. This was not an S-300 or an S-400 that have been retrofitted to be lobbed at a city. But he believes it to be a mistake. Now, after this statement about this mistake that he believes was a mistake, which also follows a pattern of behavior, Trump then went forward to say that Zelensky, who's trying to purchase missiles, this is, man, I mean, come on, man. Like, why'd you start this war you couldn't even win? Russia's so much larger than you. Listen to this.
President Zelensky serve out his offer to purchase more Patriot missile batteries?
Oh, I don't know. He's always looking to purchase missiles. He's against. Listen, when you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, right? You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size, and then hope that people give you some missiles.
So when it comes to Russia bombing and killing civilians, oopsie doopsie, mistake. When it comes to Ukraine trying to get. To be clear, when he says buying missiles, these aren't missiles you fire at other cities. He's talking about buying air defense missiles. So these are missiles that shoot down drones and missiles aimed at Ukrainian urban centers. So these are things that would intercept the bombs that are being thrown at their cities. He's asking for that. He wants to buy it, purchase it. And again, one of Trump's main complaints has been that the Ukrainians don't want to pay. They, it's hand out this, hand out that. And they're saying to them, as the Europeans are sending aid. I just saw the United Kingdom sent an aid package. Others have sent aid packages. But hey, you guys are going to get paid. And what's the response? Oh my gosh, they always want missiles. We had to war. You shouldn't have started the war. They didn't choose the war. The Russians chose the war. The invading nation chooses when a war starts. If Mexico invaded the United States and we didn't have enough missiles down south to stop the entirety of the Mexican army marching across the Texas border today on April 14th, that doesn't, oh my gosh, why weren't you prepared? We weren't ready for it because we didn't want it. We didn't expect it. We didn't choose it. They didn't choose it. I'm sure if they knew that this war was coming, how long it was going to be, they would have prepared more stockpiles in advance. Just like if Trump understood how, even though he should have, because he was in office for 4 years, understood how, let's just say, headstrong the Houthis were going to be in the face of his bombardment, maybe he would have prepared more munitions in the region and not have to divert resources from other areas, as we're seeing with the bombing campaign, if you knew. But in this case, that's a bombing campaign you chose to start, and he didn't know. The Ukrainians were invaded. They didn't choose it, and they're trying to get the supplies, and he's angry at them. It's very strange. I mean, this is they're asking to pay for the weapons. Wasn't this the big complaint? It's not sustainable for us. How is it not sustainable for us to sell weapons to another country? We're the largest arms manufacturer on the planet. This is directly against America's interests. And look, I don't care about Raytheon's bottom dollar. I don't care about Lockheed Martin's bottom dollar or General Dynamics or any other of these defense conglomerates. What I do care about is making sure that the supplies get to the people who need them. That's what I care about. And if the Ukrainians have to purchase these goods in order to get them, that's probably what they're going to end up doing. And the big complaint has always been, oh, we have spent $300 billion, $350 billion. He added another $50 billion out of nowhere on sending aid to Ukraine. It's a lie. He lies about the number all the time. But if that's the complaint, this inflated number he throws out there, how can he be angry about selling weapons to Ukraine? I mean, isn't that what America does? Sell weapons, bombs, things that blow people up? I mean, isn't that what America's pretty well known for? Because we've done it on every part of the globe, and now we're saying no? Why? Why are we saying no? Why are we saying no for something that directly overlaps with our national interests, and now we're getting paid to do? When we committed to the Ukrainians in the 90s that we would do it out of an agreement with them, and now they're going to pay us to do it, and we're angry about it. Why? There has to be something more here. And the only explanation I can get to is that Trump cares about normalizing with the Russians so much, normalizing relations, opening up trade, possible investment opportunities or schemes he's thought up in his head, the ability of being able to come to the world and advertise himself as some Nixon-esque peacemaker who is able to come over like once Nixon did in Beijing by flying over and thawing tensions. Trump shall now repeat with Moscow by flying over there and trancing around their metro stations and opening up their never-ending dolls and, watching a hockey game or, watch Kadyrov behead a few guys or whatever they're going to do, right? Whatever they're going to do over there. That's the implication I'm getting here. That's the inclination I'm getting, because this seems like the best deal possible the United States could get. It's within their defense interest for Ukraine to have the best leverage possible. It's within their defense interest to expand artillery production and air defense production now that interstate conflict has been reintroduced and we're not just fighting, men in caves anymore, which at least was how a lot of people saw defense production for the last 20 and 25 years. And at least how to be profitable in defense production, small scale but highly specialized. And now we're going to get paid for it. So we're going to be paid for doing what's in our national defense articles interest in the production of defense articles and what's in our geostrategic interests. and economic, if you want to talk about Euro-Atlantic reliance on American crude and LNG export. Mostly LNG, obviously. Point is, like, this feels like a wet dream for a certain amount of suits on Capitol Hill. Yet here we have Donald Trump reacting like, you want missiles? Why did you start a wet war if you didn't have enough missiles? What nation goes to war and doesn't buy guns? Why are you getting angry at a country for wanting to buy guns? There has to be something else. And I just think that he wants normalization. And the meetings that are progressing right now and that we're seeing progress between the Kremlin and Washington is not in the arena of peace deal making. It's not getting any closer to a ceasefire. It's not getting concessions from the Russians when it comes to the kidnapped Ukrainian children that were trafficked out of occupied Ukraine. It's not on getting a general across the board ceasefire. It's not on stopping North Korean involvement and North Korea's armies from invading Europe. It's not any of that. It's not getting us any closer to that. It's all been issues of normalization and the relationship directly between the Kremlin and Washington, the thawing of relations. So to me, it seems pretty clear that Trump cares more about that normalization than he does about the general benefits the United States could get in the Euro-Atlantic structure through its continued support for Ukraine. And I don't know what could be done to either shake him out of that funk or make him reverse course outside of broad-scale public opposition, economic consequence, European pivoting towards China, or different pieces of leverage used to pull him back from the brink. But the thing I'm always going to be terrified of is sanctions relief. Once Donald Trump removes the sanctions or talks about sanctions removal in the immediate future, that's when you're going to know we're in a code red situation, because that will be more beneficial to the Russians than any amount of aid cutoffs. Once they can import the American CNC machines and American capital and American electronics in order to produce their war machine and increase the capacity of their war machine, then we're in worst case scenario. Dylan, if the U.S. has $900 billion per year for just military standing around, how do they not have $30 million to weaken their main enemy? Well, actually, Trump said he wanted to cut the Pentagon budget in half, and then he said he wanted to make it $1 trillion from the recent proposal I saw from Pete Hegseth. So, I mean, it could be half of what it could be 500 billion. It could be $1 trillion. I mean, it's going to end up being $1 trillion. But yeah, no, they have the resources. But right now, Trump is engaged in a pretty brutal bombing campaign in Yemen, trying to really like suppress the Houthis. It's not having too much of an effect, and others are complaining about, you know, logistical strain and resources being moved out of Asia, for example, in order to sustain the bombing campaign. So, I mean, there is like a limited amount of resources, but when you talk about European defense is against one country. It's against Russia, really. So if you're talking about investing all of this into European defense or asking the Europeans to invest so much, wouldn't it be easier for everybody if you just dealt with the problem now before the Russians moved on to the other countries they want to invade? Oh, also, Trump is focusing on Iran super hard. He said there's going to be a solution to the Iran problem soon, whatever that means, or at least they'll come to a conclusion soon. Oh, did you also see this beautiful Donald J. Trump message on Truth Social, which just shows how much accountability he's taken after he said he'd end the war before he was in office, then he said he'd end the war within 24 hours, and then he said he'd end the war within 100 days. Let's listen to his accountability. At Real Donald Trump. The war between Russia and Ukraine is Biden's war, not mine. I just got here. Let me read that again. The war between Russia and Ukraine is Biden's war, not mine. I just got here. You can't say those words. You can't put those words together. Oh, it's not my war. I'm just president. What am I, president of the United States? Yes, you're president of the United States. It is your war now. It's you're the one engaging in the diplomacy. You've taken up the mantle of the United States. It's not my war. It's Biden's war. Biden didn't start it. It's Putin's war. Is everybody's with Putin's war. You never hear him say it's Putin's war. It's Biden's war. It's everybody else's war. It's not Putin's war. I just got here, and for 4 years during my term, and no problem in preventing it from happening. President Putin, okay, well, then you could also say that about any number of whatever. I don't want to get into it. President Putin and everyone else respected your president. I had nothing to do with this war, but I'm now working diligently to get the death and destruction to stop, all caps. If the 2020 presidential election was not rigged, and it was in so many ways, that horrible war never would have happened. So election denialism layered into his like fantasy land of him being such an intimidating figure that he would stop the invasion. Look, if Trump's special relationship with Putin is so powerful that would have stopped him from invading, why hasn't it been strong enough to just get him to actually stick to a goddamn ceasefire? If he's so strong and so powerful that Trump would be able to stop Putin, who he said views Ukraine as the apple of his eye, as a gem to be taken. If he thinks he's powerful enough and persuasive enough and strong enough to stop that, how is he not strong enough to stop him from blowing up children's playgrounds? I don't buy it. I don't buy it.